So I'm here right now to give like a short reaction to the Reservation Dogs episode Decolonativization. And so I love Reservation Dogs as a show, and the fact that it's like so real. I don't know, just is real or accurate, at least to my experience. And now I have to say, like, to my experience, because I grew up on the Blackfeet Reservation in like the 80s and 90s. And so, I think things change a little bit, you know, as the decades go on. It's not like we're all staying in the same place. But yeah, I think it's pretty accurate. And that being said, while I liked parts of this episode and thought some of the statements were important, I also had several problems with this episode, and maybe I'll make a longer video on the other ones. But right now, I just want to talk about the idea of the urban Indian, or urban Indian, urban native, whatever. Also, don't mind my jacked up hair because I cut it myself the other day and haven't been able to fix it. So, that's just a side note. Totally irrelevant, but it is making me self-conscious. Anyway, so here's the deal. In my opinion, urban natives, especially of like, a certain generation, especially if they ended up in those urban areas during a certain generation, like, a lot of those people, in my opinion, are suffering the worst effects of colonialism. I mean, if you think about it, they were completely cut off from their culture, from their family, which is, I guess I don't know for every tribe, but at least Blackfeet. And I know a lot of other tribes, like, that's a really strong connection to your culture. And also the land where you live. Like, obviously, that's going to influence your culture. And so these people have been cut off from that. So, to I don't know, it's a complicated scenario, but I think that making fun of people who haven't been able to be in contact with their culture because of colonialism, because of the oppression of the US government, like literal laws that were put in place to separate people to these urban areas, specifically so that they would just integrate and lose their culture and just become part of this like American mass. Yeah, I think making fun of those people who are trying to reconnect, uh, it's just like kind of counterproductive, and it's not just in this episode. This episode just made me think about that idea in general. You often do hear like disparaging remarks about, city Indian or whatever. I think people from those areas probably say like urban native or something like that. But to be honest, I don't know, but I think that was a thing. Um, However, like, oh my gosh, sorry. I totally lost my train of thought there. But yeah, making fun of these people for trying to reconnect with their culture is just, in my opinion, counterproductive. Like, we should be working to like welcome these people and, show them the way. And to be honest, again, it's like a complicated subject because people can approach this in a way that is, I don't know, it's weird because I want to say appropriative, um but obviously it's like their culture, but it's like a different kind of appropriation, or it can be approached in a way that's like inaccurate, and yet that inaccuracy is accepted as, wholesale truth and can therefore put out some like misconceptions about Native cultures and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think it's nuanced. However, I do think that welcoming these people in more than shunning them is a better way to go. And also, of course, if you are not connected to your culture, or if you are trying to connect but haven't learned a lot and are still just sort of in those beginning stages, you know, don't go around like lecturing people and like espousing a certain thing. But again, I don't even think that's what was happening in this episode with people talking about decolonization. And that's a whole other topic, though. You know, a cynical view of anti colonization is, yeah, I don't agree with it, but that's a whole other topic for a different video. I guess the main point I'm just trying to make here is that people who were systematically disconnected from their cultures, from their families, from their land, we should be welcoming them back. We should be helping them reconnect and, you know, lead them in a good way. Like, I don't mean in a good I don't mean in a good way like in that, you know, stereotypical like funny thing. I just mean like helping them in a more accurate and like welcoming way. Yeah, so that's my rant about that. I guess it could have been a little more cohesive. This is something I've thought about for a while. And, you know, currently I like grew up on the reservation, like I said, and have lived back and forth there, but currently I'm not living on the reservation. And I do see like there's a lot of difference in the way that people have to present themselves. You know, like when you're living on a reservation and everybody is native, at least that's how it was on my reservation. I know there's some reservations where it's not like that, but you know, if you're living in a place where like everybody's native, you don't really question it, you know, regardless even of what people look like. You know, I know that I'm pretty pale myself, and there's people who even look more, you know, white, I guess, than me, to put it bluntly. And, you know, you don't really question it when you're on the reservation, but then when you're like off, wow, I was going to say off the reservation, but obviously I don't mean it that way that people use. I didn't know that was a term until the whole Hillary Clinton thing. But anyway, if you're living like in white dominated America, basically, then you kind of have to contend with more people challenging who you are and like what it means to be an indigenous person, and like whether you fit their conceptions and whether you need to fit their conceptions. And if you don't have a strong base of your culture to begin with, then, you know, running into those things, I could see that could be difficult, and it could lead to some things that you might consider unorthodox if you do come from a reservation. Anyway, so this has been a long rant. I hope it was cohesive in any shape or form. Again, please do not look at my hair, but I will see you next time. Bye.